Hello, everyone. Good morning and good evening. I'm pleased to welcome you all in today's webinar, Empowering Small and Medium Enterprises Through Data Strategies. I'm your host, Shrikant Agrawal, and it's truly a pleasure to have you all here. It's going to be an exciting webinar, and we have allocated an hour for this. We'll cover important aspects about building a data strategy and how it can be used profitably. We also have few poll questions, which will be put on your screen, and you can respond by choosing one of the options. After the webinar discussion, we have kept a dedicated Q&A sessions towards the end where you can actively engage with our expert. And at the end of the session, we'll float a survey form to take the feedback to know how well the session resonated. So folks, if you have any questions during this section, please feel free to drop them in chat box. If you can look into your webinar screen, we have a chat icon where interactive poll questions will come, and there is a section dedicated for Q&A where you can post your questions. So I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic session. Before deep diving, I would like to take a moment to give you a brief overview of TechMint and what TechMint does. TechMint Technology, headquartered in India with its subsidiary office in Plano, Texas, US, is a global provider of innovative solutions in data engineering, product engineering, software development, and cloud services. With a proven track record spanning over a decade and with 4 global development centers, we prioritize understanding our client unique needs, infrastructure requirements, and budget constraints to deliver tailored solutions that optimize their resources. And to ensure that you all leave with valuable insights, we have two important key takeaways for you. Firstly, we will be offering a data maturity survey, which will offer a detailed analysis of your current data process and landscape, identifying areas of improvement and optimization. And along with that, we will also provide you with exclusive access to our latest white paper, which talks about building a winning data strategy for small and medium businesses, providing insights about data strategy to suit your specific business needs and budget. So, folks, let's kickstart this session. Let me introduce to our esteemed speaker for this webinar, Mary Vojas. Mary Vojas is a seasoned technology leader with over 25 years of experience in software field. She is a data expert with over 6+ years of experience in field of data science and data engineering. She has held various roles at various organizations like GM, Dell, Kestra Financial, Q2, and Charles Schwab. Over the years, she has successfully led teams and managed software engineering, and data science projects in various verticals like automotive, finance, and healthcare domains. She employs industry best practices and cutting edge technologies to design scalable data architectures, optimal data processing pipelines, and robust machine learning models. Let's invite Mary to share her journey with us.
Thank you, Shrikant. So I'm really glad to be here. I've been with TechMint Technologies now for about 3 months, and my role at TechMint is Director of Data Engineering and Data Science. You know, I've held a lot of different roles over my career. I wasn't always a data engineer or data scientist. I've mostly led software testing teams and automated test data creation, continuous integration, continuous delivery pipelines, and automating the pipelines. So I've had a wide range of roles throughout my career, and I've focused my last set of years on data engineering, data science. And you know, there's a lot to learn in this field, and I'm still learning every day. So hopefully this webinar can provide some insights based on our conversation today, and hopefully everybody will learn a little bit of something new. I see a lot of data experts on the guest list that came in, the invitees. So hopefully this will be pretty productive.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary, for this fantastic introduction. It's truly an honor to have you with us today. Your wealth of knowledge is going to make this webinar an incredible session. By the way, when I was actually introducing you, I see a lot of experience on the software side. Just curious to understand what brought you on the data space.
Well, I've always worked with data. I started out as a geophysicist a long time ago, processing seismic data. And, you know, so 30 years ago when I was processing seismic data, I was dealing with terabytes of data. And at that time, that was a lot of data. And then as I transitioned into testing, I was always keeping metrics about our test automation, trying to predict when we would be done, looking at feature health, looking at our builds, looking at the quality of our builds and our deployments. And my leaders back then said, why don't you start to learn data science? So I did. I started taking some courses in data science. And as I was working with data science, I always felt like, how do I get access to that data? How do I, gosh, or if I'm working with this data, there's something wrong with this data. I mean, is it noisy? What's the quality of this data? And so that prompted me to learn more about data engineering. How do I get the data to my stakeholders? How do I understand, where did this data come from? Where did it originate? How come this data has some noise in it? How do I get rid of this noise, or how do I improve the quality of this data? And so data engineering and data science tend to go hand in hand. And I felt the need to learn how to bring the data to the stakeholder and then allow the stakeholder actually consume it, use it, and derive insights from it. So, and my journey is continuing. I haven't completed my journey in learning data engineering and data science, and I'm learning more every day. So that's how I came to be.
Thanks for that insights, Mary. Great to hear. And I'm sure with your experience, a lot of new insights on the data engineering is going to come our way. So it would be really an insightful session. So, folks, let's start with a poll question. You will see a poll question on your screen. Please take a moment to select an option that resonates you the most. You have 30 to 45 seconds to respond to that question. And for everyone's ease, I'll read out the question. What do you think is the biggest challenge in implementing data strategy for your business? Is it all about difficulty in data integrations, lack of proper usage and tools, data privacy and security, or it's all about data collection? So, Mary, while our audiences respond to this poll question, I want to ask, why is it essential for small and medium businesses to have a well-defined data strategy in place?
That's a great question, because I know a lot of small and medium businesses may not be having data at the top of their mind. They're trying to grow their business, they're trying to reach their customers, but that's kind of partly why you'd want a data strategy. I mean, most businesses today are, data businesses and technology businesses. We have data from smart devices, our watches and heart rate monitors, social media, sensors, and other connected devices. And
Mhm.
so, since these data sources have existed for a long time, a lot of these companies are collecting that data. So why would you want to have a data strategy if you're a small and medium business? Well, maybe you want to look at, can I offer different services? Can I offer different products? Or maybe I'm having a hard time engaging with my customers. Maybe I want to offer more tailored experiences and more personalized experiences just for them, so I can retain customers and attract more customers to using my products and my services. Another reason why it might be essential for a small or medium business to have a data strategy is maybe we want to refine our processes. Maybe we want to optimize our processes. Maybe our processes aren't very efficient. Maybe we want to shorten shipping times. Maybe we have a problem with our inventory. Maybe we don't have enough inventory, or maybe we have too much inventory. Maybe we need to look at logistical routes, most efficient routes that we need to get customers or goods and services from point A to point B. Another reason why is maybe there's some fraud that we want to prevent. Maybe we have a sense that we've got some risk built up in our business, and we need to put some insights in place to help us detect fraudulent activities. So all of these reasons could be, why you might want to have a data strategy in place.
That's really interesting. And I received the responses from the audiences, and thanks, folks, for your active participation. And I see that majority of the people think that the biggest challenge in implementing data strategy for your business is difficulty in data integration. So can you throw some more lights on that perspective, Mary?
Sure. I mean, we see that a lot with our customers. Customers may have ERP systems, CRM systems, financial systems that all need to talk together. And maybe they have their own transactional web-based applications that need to consume that data. And so how do you get all of that data together to have derive insights from all of that data, and having those systems talk to each other has been a challenge that we see. And sometimes the products that make up those systems aren't always the best at where you can extract that data and get it to its destination to get answers. So we see that a lot in our business. But all of those challenges, all of the options there are challenges that we see across our customer landscape.
Correct. And I can resonate that difficulty in data integration because even though it's a small organization or a big organization, there are multiple independent systems present in silos and data is segregated. But obviously, putting a right data strategy and doing the integrations to make sure that data comes to the right place for doing processing and modeling, and then eventually getting the visualization is what the data strategy is all about. Thank you, Mary. I agree with you. And just wanted to note that in the earlier times when data was primarily stored on premises, organizations faced significant challenges due to high cost and various physical constraints. The advent of cloud infrastructure has played a transformative role in shaping data strategies. Especially for small and medium businesses, transitioning to cloud infrastructure brings forth numerous advantages. It provides the flexibility to scale resources as needed, reduces the burden of capital expenditures, and offers robust data management tools and capabilities. Utilizing cloud infrastructure means faster insights, more flexibility, and the ability to scale up or down as your business evolves. So, Mary, could you throw some more lights on this aspect as well?
Sure. Every point that you made there is valid. I mean, cloud infrastructure does give you that flexibility and the ability to scale up and down. But I do want to throw some caution to the wind there. I mean, in my opinion, I believe it's a myth that the cloud can save you money. Now, I think you can
Mhm.
optimize costs with the cloud. Many of these cloud service providers can give you a long rope to choke yourself if you're not careful. If you don't carefully look at cost optimization in mind when you architect a solution, you
Yep.
can drive those costs up just as you would in your own data center. So being mindful of the volume of data that you have, how many customers or how many users that you have that will need to have access to your data, and also the types of data that you need to bring into your data platform, um, would help. You need to have those levers in mind when you architect a solution. So just, I wouldn't think that, hey, automatically I'm going to save money. I mean, you run the risk of driving those costs up. And so being mindful about how you provision those services and what services you need based on those attributes I just talked about
Yep.
is crucial.
I agree with your points, Mary. And obviously, with cloud infrastructure and all this cloud computing coming into picture, everything is pay as you go model, where things are really on a real time basis. And it's very important to define the right set of strategy to make sure that we optimize the cost with all the scalability and flexibility in place. So, with reference to the points what you shared, Mary, though there are many cloud service providers which I know is like AWS, Azure, and GCP, I think a new recent member has joined to this club, which is Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And I'm happy to share that TechMint has recently embarked on a significant partnership with Oracle. Leveraging this partnership, we will empower businesses by providing them customized and tailored solutions based on specific needs. Oracle, as we all know, is a very big player. They provide a fantastic suites of products, and on the other hand, TechMint, learning those capabilities, excels in customization. So, Mary, what are your thoughts on these players when we talk about Azure, AWS, GCP, and of course, Oracle now coming into this space? What makes OCI unique as compared to others, or would I make up the decision on which needs to be selected to start my data journey?
Well, I mean, all of the cloud service providers provide a rich set of services that you can take advantage of, and very flexible in how you assemble those services. But I 3 months ago, before I joined TechMint, I didn't know that Oracle had a cloud infrastructure. I did not know that. I mean, this is new for me. And again, when I mentioned, there's been such a vast technology explosion over the last 10 years. Oracle cloud infrastructure now also being a new player to the cloud landscape. is something that's intriguing. Let me talk a little bit about Oracle. So Larry Ellison is the CTO of Oracle, and he decided to assemble the best of the best people from the big three cloud service providers. So Oracle isn't first, second, third, probably fourth or fifth. I mean, even Oracle would state that about themselves. And Larry asked them to build a new cloud platform, basically start over. And he asked them, if you had unlimited resources and you knew what you wanted to build in your way, not the company's way, but in your way, and you knew what to avoid, the mistakes that maybe you'd made in the past, could you build something extraordinary? And so basically taking the lessons that they learned from the past to build a new cloud infrastructure with Oracle. So it was built from the ground up, and it was designed to be resistant to many of the security issues that were inherent in those first generation clouds. So how does Oracle cloud infrastructure, and I'm going to use the abbreviation OCI going forward here, how does it differentiate from AWS, Azure, and GCP? So Oracle's is on its second generation cloud, and it was built on ultra-fast remote data memory access, RDMA network. So Oracle has partnered with a couple of companies. NVIDIA is one of them. And this allows customers like us and you all to take advantage of NVIDIA's huge superclusters. They were once owned by Sun Microsystems, and take advantage of those GPUs that they have included in those huge superclusters, which allows you to train generative AI models at 2 times the speed and less than half the cost. And so being this partner with NVIDIA is also a customer of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for AI services. And because of that collaboration, it is really kind of beefed up the compute power that it has there. So I'm intrigued about that. The other partnership that they have is with Cohere, and Cohere is a generative AI startup that provides foundational large language models and expertise in natural language processing. And they've embedded Cohere's language models in its business apps like Oracle Fusion or NetSuite. So if we have customers out there that have used those, you could start asking questions in natural language for processing, and it will generate an answer for you, which I think is pretty compelling. Imagine that on an autonomous data warehouse. That's pretty cool. I know my bosses in the past have always wanted to know questions about the data, and okay, well, it's going to take us a couple of weeks to put that together, which is usually too late. And now you have the ability to ask the data store directly, which is pretty cool. I also want to talk about Oracle's security. So they don't treat security as a second-class citizen. In everything they do, they start with security and they bake it in automatically. It's pretty important when working with the cloud. So OCI was designed on bare metal cloud architecture. So they have this off-the-box virtualization hardware. The network interface card, the NIC, is essentially placed in this off-box virtualization hardware away from the hypervisor on bare metal. So basically that hypervisor is stripped down to basic functionality, and the privileged cloud control pane is offloaded to that off-box virtualization hardware. And it has a couple of benefits. One is it reduces the attack surface of that hypervisor. I'm not sure if the other clouds have that as well. So if the hypervisor has that security issue, it has that limited blast radius, and it doesn't impact that cloud control plane of operations. This is also free to the customer. This is at no extra cost, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And then also too, when the hardware goes bad, and I'm sure most cloud service providers have the same, something similar, but when the hardware goes bad, it's decommissioned. So as part of that decommission process in their data centers, that hardware, even with the customer data, including the drives, is mechanically destroyed within that OCI data center. And so that process is tracked and reviewed periodically, and it's audited. And of course, Oracle is known for its deep expertise in database technologies. I mean, gosh, 20 years ago, I was testing on an Oracle transactional database. And they are the leaders in database technologies. They offer a wide range of database services. So the autonomous database is one of those. I mean, can you imagine? You don't have to have a DBA. It's a self-driving database.
Yep.
I love not having a DBA, especially as a data engineer. It's like, move the DBA out of the way, let me do my thing. And then there's also the autonomous data warehouse, which is also cool, self-driving data warehouse. There's autonomous transaction processing and autonomous JSON database. We also have a converged database. You can operate a database in multiple modalities with different languages that you can interact with. So all good and deep and rich database technologies that it offers, and it makes it easier to have some data integration, data analytics now with Oracle ERP and Fusion and NetSuite if you're using those tools. Oracle also has an always free tier, which includes the compute instances, the storage, the database, networking, and security services. And of course, if they're not being used, of course they're going to reclaim it. But you can get about a $300 credit for a 30-day period, and it allows you to try these services at no cost, as long as you use it, within the limits defined by Oracle. So from a compute perspective, you can get 2 autonomous databases with 2 virtual machines on bare metal compute instances and some block volumes for free. You can get 100 gigs of block volumes from a storage perspective, or 10 gigabytes of object storage. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but it can definitely get you started to try some things out. And then from a networking perspective, you can get 1 load balancer and 10 terabytes of data egress for free. And so if you're kind of in that multi-cloud paradigm, can help you lower those costs. Also, Oracle believes that all clouds should be open and connected. So it's easy for customers to combine different services from different clouds, and this is pretty compelling. Oracle has announced that they've installed Oracle Cloud hardware and software in Azure data centers. So it's just a microsecond connection from an Oracle database to Azure services. What this means is that you can open up the Azure portal and provision, say, an autonomous data warehouse directly from the Azure portal, and you would be charged as if you're all under Azure. You're not getting 2 separate bills there. So this is another great way to kind of, so maybe if you're a Microsoft Azure shop, but you want to kind of explore some multi-cloud capability, and you've used Oracle database services before, maybe using that multi-cloud paradigm is now available to you. All of the Oracle Cloud data centers have the identical hardware and software, and so they've automated everything in their data centers. Now, they may vary by scale depending, but they have basically the same identical hardware and software. And because everything is automated, it's more secure, it's reliable, and much lower cost. So you get a more total cost of ownership because of the automation that's involved. So this could be another economical way for small and medium sized businesses to get started. And then too, Oracle, if you're not, they've got this new feature or this new service where if you're not ready to go to the cloud and you have your own data center, say you've invested a lot in your data center, they have something called Oracle Dedicated Region and Cloud at Customer, and it runs all of the Oracle Cloud services in your data center. So you only pay for what you use, but you can still connect to other clouds. So I thought that was kind of an interesting feature that they've provisioned.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mary. And I think those were the very, very valuable insights, and I'm sure audience is getting back onto that. And just wanted to remind you guys, if you have any questions in mind, please feel free to post them in chat box. All right, we have another poll question which you can see on your screen. So please take a moment to provide your responses. And I can read it loud that what is the primary business objective you aim to achieve by implementing a data strategy in your organization? Is it all about enhancing customer experience and engagement? Or it is about improving operational efficiency and process, strengthening data security, privacy, and compliances, or it's all about enhancing analytical capabilities? While we receive the responses, Mary, I have some thoughts. Consider I'm wearing a hat of a owner of a small and medium enterprise. I would be keen to understand how can I strategize my roadmap. You already have been enlightened us about Oracle offerings, but I'm curious to know what factors should we keep in mind while making this crucial decision? Your insights on this matter would be really valuable.
Sure. So I would say let's start if I'm a small or medium enterprise, how would I start to where would I start in building a data strategy? And I would say let's first start looking at your overall business objectives and outcomes. What problems are you trying to solve as a business? Let's start there first. Notice I'm not starting with let's go look at the technology. I would recommend not starting with the technology. I recommend let's look at your business goals and objectives. Do you have OKRs, objectives and key results for your overall business? I get it. I mean, if you're a small or medium enterprise, data may not be at the top of your mind, but what may be at the top of your mind could be how can I diversify the set of offerings that I'm trying to sell to my customers? It's very similar to what I talked about earlier. So start there. What are the outcomes that you're envisioning for your company? And a data strategy doesn't have to be this daunting, overwhelming 3-year, 5-year thing that you go execute to. You can start off really small. So when you look at your business objectives, try to determine what can I do with my data that I already have in my company to achieve my business objectives. Define that, and it could be really small. Maybe start off something very small and then allow it to grow and gain momentum and measure those results against those objectives. Then I would start to look at, okay, now I have an idea. So maybe it is enhancing analytical capabilities. Maybe I just want to make better business decisions with the data that I have and I collect so that I can be a little bit more proactive to streamline my overall value stream that I have in my business. That's great. So let's start there. Then I would start to look at, okay, let's take a look at the technology. Where do I get all of my data coming into my business? What are all my sources of data today? Where do I collect them? How do I intend to use that data? Who's going to be using my data? What appetite does my staff have for learning new skills, or do I want to outsource the training of that to another company like TechNet, for example? So I would look at that. And so we talk about the technology and we talk about the people, and then you may want to look at processes around that after that. So how do I govern who has access to my data? Does the definition of a term mean the same thing across my company? You could start identifying, can I make sure that we're all aligned on definitions of data attributes? So that's around applying some data governance and starting to catalog and identify a common understanding and language that you can use across your company. So then I would put that together. But again, it doesn't have to be a 3-year, 5-year thing. You can start off small, execute to that, stop, pause, and reflect to say, okay, am I achieving the business objectives that I thought I would achieve? And if yes, continue, keep going. If not, maybe start over again. Okay, analyze what went wrong, and so have those pauses in there to continually reflect and see if it's making a difference in those objectives.
Excellent, Barry. Your points are spot on. These insights really help to define a roadmap for any small and medium enterprise to kickstart data strategy. And I can resonate with the responses coming from our audience. Most of the people thinks about enhancing analytical capabilities. So would you like to throw some lights on that perspective?
Sure. I mean, all of these choices here could be a primary business objective. I mean, enhancing customer experience and engagement. You want to improve that customer engagement. Maybe improving the operational efficiency and processes. I talked about that earlier. Maybe streamlining my supply chain or streamlining the manufacturing process. Strengthening data security and privacy and compliance. Oh my gosh, this is huge. You know, um, we've got the General Data Protection Regulation Act. That's the European compliance that we all have to kind of adhere to protect that data. Without if you don't protect your data and secure your data, you're going to lose trust with your customers and lose confidence. And so we also have things like the California Consumer Privacy Act, the CCPA, also HIPAA laws if you're in the healthcare industry. My daughter just turned 18 years old, and the HIPAA laws are even applying to me as her mom. I no longer have access to her medical records unless she gives me
Right.
permission to see them. She's now an adult. So we have to do the same thing in our companies today, and the data that we work with. And then most often we do see people want to enhance their analytical capabilities. They want to make business decisions based off the data that they use and collect every day to improve business operations and to make adjustments. And they want to be proactive about that. So all of these are great primary business objectives. So think about that when you're creating a data strategy. We gave you some, but maybe there's more there that we didn't list.
Absolutely. And that's what we are going to offer to all our audiences in the data maturity survey, where we will define the data strategy roadmap and will help to understand the problem statement first before solutioning it into a technical side. So thank you, Mary, for shedding lights on this. I hope our discussion is hitting the mark with the audiences. Just wanted to remind that if you have any questions, please feel free to post on Q&A chat box, and we would be happy to respond at the end of this session. So, Mary, could you also shed some more lights on TechMint capabilities in data engineering? I'm sure our audience is eager to learn more about it.
Sure. So I thought we'd throw up a slide here because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and we've taken this from the Microsoft Azure Data Fundamentals exam. So yes, we are all still training and learning, like I mentioned earlier in this podcast or in our webinar. So I'm going to start from left to right here. So because I mentioned earlier, almost every business is a data business and a technology business. We have to consider our sources. So data engineers need to look at, what's the data type, what's, where's this data stored? Where's this data coming from? We get data from, like I said, smart devices, our watches, heart rate monitors, maybe social media, maybe emails, you name it. We get data from all sorts of places. And so data engineers have to consider what are those sources, and they've existed for since the dawn of time. But what is new in the last few years is the flexibility of cloud platforms to enable a wider architecture design, allowing you to build complex systems where all of these sources can coexist. So the amount of data is growing at a very fast rate. So I'm going to talk about like the 5 V's of data here. People may say, well, wait a minute, I thought there were 3 V's of data. Well, there's actually 5 and maybe a 6, and you can keep going. But data engineers have to consider, the velocity of the data, which is really the speed at which the data is coming in, or your business is receiving and storing and managing that data. So so you have to look at how much data is coming in within a day or an hour or maybe another unit of time. Another V is the volume. I mentioned the size and the amounts of that data that you have to manage and analyze, and how large is that, and is expected to grow over time. And then we look at the variety, so the diversity of the data types. We talk about unstructured data. We talk about structured data. So unstructured data is in the form of like video files, audio files, maybe sensor data, maybe some images, things like that. You can't store those in a traditional transactional or relational database because the data format is different. You also consider, traditionally we work with structured data like pricing data, CRM data, dates and times, financial transactions, or there could also be semi-structured data like emails, XML files, zip files, JSON files, and so on. But this is really a depiction of kind of a modern data warehouse, and it's very simplified. Of course, this is not all exhaustive, and so or architectures are various. So we're just kind of made a simplified view here, but it gives you that practical overview of the types of tasks and activities. So data engineers also use something called data pipelines. And there's also other ingestion or data replication methods. So if these sources are not located in the cloud, and even if they are located in the cloud, you could still build a data pipeline. And a data pipeline is really a method that has, or construct that has many tasks and activities in which raw data is extracted from those various data sources and then sent to its data store, its target. So you got to store that data. So if you're taking the data from one place, you're going to store it to its target. And so you might have heard of the terms like ETL and ELT. So ETL is extract, transform, and load, and ELT is extract, load, and transform. And the pattern that we easily apply through that ingestion, if you've got a data source that's in a data center or on premise, and you want to migrate that to the cloud, we use that pattern of ELT. You want to extract raw from that source and load it into that data store into the cloud. And then you might perform some transformations and lightly standardize that data once you've got it into the cloud. Data engineers also set up appropriate tools and monitoring and orchestration that orchestrates the flow of this data coming in to the cloud. And they also apply some security and governance so that both internal users and end users should only be accessing the information they're allowed to. And so these actual data sets that are stored in these storage services can also be used for analytical reports and dashboards. So data engineers have to consider all of these stakeholders that might use this data. And so if I'm a data scientist as a stakeholder, they will also help us, data engineers will provide the workspaces and make sure the compute and the data sets are available so that those data scientists can access those data sets and start to create their models for deeper insights. So in the data architectures that we implement, raw data is always kept in its original format so that we can allow our business users and data scientists to have access to the original set of data that's coming from those sources. And then they let them enrich that data with analytics techniques as they see fit. So you can create some new features, you can do some aggregates with that data. And then, data engineers will also provision the business intelligence tools that are needed. So like Power BI, maybe Tableau. If you're in AWS, maybe it's QuickSight, or if you're in GCP, maybe it's Data Studio. There's other tools out there like ThoughtSpot or Sigma that you can use to also visualize your data. So data engineers are kind of responsible for that entire gamut. And again, we just keeping in mind the variability and the variety of data that comes in. We have to use different ingestion mechanisms to bring that data into the cloud or to the cloud data store. So hopefully this gives a pretty good overview of the services that our data engineers are able to implement.
Absolutely, Mary. I agree with your point, and this picture depicts the complete portfolio and understanding about end-to-end data engineering process. It's a long path which I can see that to reach to analytics and reporting, we need to follow different processes and mechanisms, and that's what data engineering is all about. Going forward, I want you to elaborate more on our capabilities by taking some of the use cases where we have solved specific challenges for our clients in different industries. From innovative data engineering to cutting edge analytics, TechMint has been at the forefront of delivering various innovative solutions. So, we have got some fascinating stories to unfold about how TechMint is shaping the data landscape for the clients. Mary?
Sure. Yeah, so we actually work with all different types of businesses: retail, healthcare, ed tech, food and beverage. So we will customize a solution based on the client's needs. We don't like to come in and force, okay, you have to use OCI. We get that. So we have a lot of customers that are Microsoft shop. They want to stay in Azure, and they don't want to use anything else but Azure. And so our job is to be able to deliver data platforms in the most cost-effective manner as possible. And so if you're an AWS shop or you have applications in AWS and you'd rather stay in AWS, we'll definitely customize a solution for you. In the retail space, we have set up a data platform that included migrating sources from their on-premises, their SQL Server transactional databases, and into the cloud. And we've done some data transformation and data visualization using Power BI in those cases. From the food and beverage, I've got to say this because for those of you that know me, I love wine, and so yes, we've worked with a vineyard, a winery, and we've actually helped them to optimize their own supply chain processes, making sure that the inventory is as efficient as possible. I mean, you need those grapes, you need all of those chemicals and yeast and everything to make good wine. And so Shrikant, let's make sure I get a bottle of wine from that company
Yeah, why
as
not?
well,
Definitely, yes.
for sure. But data mostly what you see here is that the data visualization piece is really key for a lot of our customers, so that they can make derive insights from all of that data. And of course, we with the healthcare company that we've worked with, we've helped this healthcare company where it has injured workers that are on use workers compensation, help them get to their doctor's appointments. So helping them understand the best logistical routes and the best vendors to use for those patients to get them to their doctor's visits, where they may not be able to drive a vehicle. And so we work with a company that provides that service. And of course, there's data governance, and I talked about the compliance
Yep.
pieces around HIPAA, GDPR, keeping that data private and secure. And so a lot of times we have to encrypt the data at rest, or maybe redact it, especially in the testing environments, especially where data scientists have to play. So that's really key to these industries as well.
Thanks, Mary. It was a fantastic discussion with you today. All right, everyone. So it's time to commence our Q&A session. This is your chance to ask your questions. So we are opening the window for your queries, and we would be happy to take up and answer those questions.
Don't be bashful.
So, Mary, while audiences post these questions to Q&A chat box, a curious question which generally comes to on my mind is, what are some of the best practices for efficient data management which can be used within the organization?
Best practices, I would say, one, you want to use your people, is start identifying some data stewards in your company. So, sometimes that may not always be as practical, but if you can identify people that can manage and govern and ensure alignment of terms and definitions, they can monitor the access of the data. They can make sure, hey, are we all aligned on the definition of this data? And then looking at tools to help you implement. Most of the cloud services have data governance services that you can provision. Some are good, some not all of the data governance tools that are available provide the consistent same functionality. So if you need a little bit more functionality, there are other tools like Elation, which I really like, and Calibra that are cloud agnostic, that you can use with multiple types of data sources in the cloud, in different cloud paradigms as well. So, but again, I think a data steward to come in and say, yeah, I own all of the finance and accounting data sets, and I'm going to ensure, I can monitor who has access to that. I can use a tool to help me do that. I think would go a long way. And it also helps instills a data-driven culture with that.
Yep. All right.
What else?
I can see audiences are still posting the questions, but another question which I feel, how do data engineers ensure I received one question from one of our colleague. How do data engineers ensure data quality and data integrity? That's really an important topic about data quality, data governance, and data
Oh, for
integrity.
sure.
So, what are your thoughts on that, Mary?
Well, I would say, to ensure data quality, you got to inspect the source. Okay, so where does that data come in? Where does that data originate? You got to attack data quality there.
Yep.
I always talk to our data engineers a lot about, okay, once you bring the data in, trying to attack data quality once you bring it in, it's a little bit late. I mean, you can do some things, but then you might add bias or noise into that data. So I would always, suggest, okay, where does that data originate? And sometimes, you have a web-based application that has a transactional database to store all of its transactions. Well, is it the database itself, or was it the front end where you are entering data information, and a user could, if you don't have proper constraints or instructions for the users to enter that data, well, that's the source of where data quality problems can start.
Yep.
It's not really a good practice to try to catch that in a data pipeline. Now you can check for data quality in that pipeline, and we do. It says, okay, do we have a data sharing agreement between that source and when it comes into the cloud, or maybe that vendor and when it comes into our system? And do we have a set of rules and standards that says, okay, this should be the data formats and the data types? And don't store that data in your system if it doesn't
Correct.
pass those checks. Don't store that data. That's just my recommendation, right? So
Yep.
again, attacking data, you got to understand what's the source of that data. Attack it at the source. Don't attack it once you bring it in and then try to make up your own rules. Because, again, if I'm a data scientist trying to work with that and I've injected some kind of noise where it didn't need to be there in the first place, that's not good either. And I can't rely on that data. And plus, those models, if they're trained on that, they may not generalize well against production data or new data for that. So
That's really an insightful thought. Uh, I have another question, which one of our audiences have asked upon, which is a very really interesting question. What is the biggest challenge TechMint faced while moving on-prem data to cloud?
what is the biggest challenge that TechMint has faced
Yeah,
moving data in the cloud?
as an organization,
One,
what biggest challenge we have faced while moving data from on-premises to cloud?
well, one is aligning the right data ingestion type or the data migration, building the right data pipeline. Because if you've got a streaming, that data that I talk about, the velocity of data, you've got streaming data that comes in very quickly. Well, if I'm in Azure, I wouldn't want to provision an Azure data factory, the Azure data factory to bring that kind of data in. I'd probably want to use like Event Hub, to handle streaming data to bring it into a data store. So really, making sure that we use the right ingestion mechanism. If I'm using Oracle, for example, and I've got an Oracle transaction database on-prem, I may want to use something like Golden Gate to bring the
Mhm.
data from that Oracle transaction database to OCI, into the autonomous data warehouse. I'm not going to, so it's the amount of data pipeline types or the data ingestion types that we've got to learn and overcome to satisfy our customers' needs.
That's interesting, Mary, to hear. And I'm sure Navya got an insights about the response to this particular question. Another question, which I can pick it up from the pool, Mary, it's related to data integrity. But for a firm who is trying to have a data strategy at a minimal cost, what will be the ideal cloud provider to proceed with?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. I mean, what I would say is, what technologies are you using today? Okay, what technologies do you have applications today that your business uses, and what technologies are those in? What appetite does your staff have on learning new technologies? Do they care? Are they up for the challenge, or they would rather stick to known technologies? So if you have an application, maybe it's a web-based application that's already provisioned in AWS, you may want to stay with AWS. Now, I will say, if you go to a multi-cloud implementation, you
Hmm.
may want to look at data egress charges. So cloud service providers actually charge you for the data egress if it leaves one cloud and into another. But also sometimes using cloud agnostic services like Snowflake. Snowflake is that cloud agnostic data warehouse. And in fact, you can set up Snowflake in multiple different modalities. You can set it up as a data lake or lake house and a warehouse as well. Um, and you can provision Snowflake in any pretty much any cloud service provider on top of say S3 and AWS or on top of ADLS and Azure. So it just really depends on. I would ask yourself, do you have applications already built in a certain technology? Are you used to that technology? And that's what we do when we have a client. I actually take them through a client questionnaire that has three parts. It's, what are your goals and objectives and your outcomes and problems that you're trying to solve? How can we measure this? Then we talk about the technology piece where I go into that, and then I talk about visualization and AI use cases is the third piece. So all of this we find out with our customers, but I can't really tell you, oh, always use this cloud service
Hmm.
provider. It's really up to the company to determine that. I can give you suggestions and pros and cons, but ultimately that the client makes the decision.
Absolutely. And that is what your experience brings onto the table, that you can share insights and experiences. And definitely once it goes into a discovery and assessment phase where we are gonna do the brainstorming of the activities, actual things will come onto our plate. I'll take, in interest of time, one last question, Mary. We talk a lot about technology, we talk a lot about data engineering, but from a business perspective in a layman's language, I was thinking upon how do you see the role of data evolving in your business over the next few years? What new things are coming on the data side?
Well, everybody's talking about AI. Generative AI is huge. Um, and then there's, of course, the ethics that's involved with AI in general. AI with these large language models, you need the compute to be able to compute that. I mean, CPUs just is not going to cut it. You're going to need GPUs, and I think there's something called TPUs now. I mean,
Mhm.
and is it going to be cost effective too? It's very expensive to train and test a large language model over and over and over again. As a data scientist, you're always iterating. Okay, let me hyperparameter tune this one little attribute or piece of the function here, and then let me retrain and test. And then when you deploy out into production, I'm hearing generative AI models can hallucinate. Oh my gosh, it's like, okay, is my AI model on shrooms or something? I don't
Mhm.
know. But I make a joke out of that. But hallucination is a real thing. It's giving you an answer where it's sure, but it's not really. It's kind of not really the right answer. I don't know if anybody's played with Chat GBT. So the ability to start detecting hallucinations or the ability to start detecting model drift, so that your model is no longer generalizing well against that production data, is something in doing this in a cost effective manner, I think is going to
Mm.
be. There are a lot of companies now offering platforms on top of the cloud service providers that help you cost manage or effectively manage the compute that you need, can detect model drift, can help you do the ML ops, can help you go back through that iteration of training and testing, creating more features, things like that. And we're going to need that. I mean, if you're doing just basic linear regression or classification, you could probably get away with CPUs in some cases, depending on how large your data. But with those larger data sets, we're going to need all the help we can get, and we need it to be it as less costly as possible, or most cost efficient as possible.
That's really interesting, Mary. And I'm sure there is a lot to hear more, but in interest of time, what we will do is that whatever questions are unanswered, we'll pick those questions and we'll make sure that we respond back in next 48 hours with our thoughts on how this can be taken. So sure, here's my takeaway from our discussion. In an era where data seen as a gold mine, the significance lies not in the size of the business, but in how effectively you position your data strategy. Remember, innovation doesn't discriminate based on business size. A small business armed with well-crafted data strategy can outshine its competitors. So it's about adapting to market shifts and unlocking new avenues for growth. For our audiences, I have a few announcements which are very important. For your active participation, we are offering a free download of our latest white paper that delves deeper into key insights and practical tips about what we have discussed today. After this webinar, you will also receive your download link in your mailbox. Also, we are providing an exclusive opportunity to take a free data maturity assessment. You can go to our website www.techment.com, and over a section of data maturity assessment page, you can register and we would be happy to assist on the data landscape side. Here we come to the end of this session, and I would like to take a moment to extend our heartfelt thanks to our exceptional guest speaker, Mary. Your insights have been truly valuable, and we are grateful for your time and expertise. And thanks to our wonderful audience, your participation made this webinar a great success. I would also like to remind you that our journey doesn't end here. If you have more questions or need further information, TechMint is right here for you. Feel free to reach out through our website or drop us an email to info@techmint.com. That's right there in your chat window. Once again, thank you all. Until we meet again, stay curious and keep pushing the boundaries.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day and evening.